Hey guys, welcome back to Bixby's Beer Reviews. Great to have you with us again. Today we're going to be following up on one of our early episodes. We're checking out another lager from the good folks down at Ardent Craft Ales in Richmond, Virginia. We already tried their German Pilsner, so today we're going to be checking out their Bohemian Pilsner. Bohemian Pilsner, of course, gets its name from the European region of Bohemia. Today, that's, I believe, mostly just the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Of course, that's where Pilsner beer gets its name from the city of Pilsen. It is also where the king of American macro craft beers, Budweiser, gets its name from. It actually gets it from a brewery called Budweiser Budvar, which is older than Budweiser and is still there and is in a very long-running trademark dispute over their right to distribute their beers. Bohemian Pilsner, it's a little bit inaccurate to compare it to German Pilsner as a single style because what we call Bohemian Pilsner, which is what you're usually going to see it called here in the States, is really more of a range of expressions of pale Czech lager of varying strengths and complexities. And so it's not really just one style, it's more of a range of type of beers as opposed to German Pilsner, which has a pretty consistent stylistic guidelines. And so one cool thing you're actually going to see a little bit more these days, even among American brewers, is that instead of just calling it a Bohemian Pilsner or sometimes a Czech Pilsner, they'll put a little number. It'll be a number with a funny little symbol next to it. It looks like a degree symbol, and that's what we call degrees Plato. And don't let it throw you off. All that's telling you is how strong the beer is. It's a measure of how much fermented sugar has been extracted from the barley prior to the fermentation process. Let's crack it open and take a look. So as you can see, we're using a Pilsner glass again here to keep all those precious little bubbles in there. And we're going to be making reference a lot to German Pilsners as a contrast to Bohemian Pilsners, probably the two most popular continental Pilsners you're going to see. So first off, let's get a look at the appearance here. One thing you notice, and you particularly notice this if you have a German example of Pilsner next to it, is that this is a good deal darker than your average Pilsner. It's still very clear, very well lagered, still reasonably well carbonated in a way that you can see. But Bohemian Pilsners are going to use a much darker malt, and so you're going to notice that it comes in a slightly darker color, and then some Czech lagers will even go a little bit darker than this. As I was saying, Czech Pilsner is really more of a range of styles than a single style, and so a lot of breweries will really play with the malts, go a little bit darker, even into some what I guess you would almost call amber or dark examples. Some of those we may even have on the BBR in the future. But for now, let's give this one a smell. So it's a very beautiful smelling beer, this beer from Ardent. It did an excellent job with the lagering process. You can tell right off the bat because it has that very distinctive lagered malt note. As I always say, it's kind of like a malt has been taken and stretched out, and you can see all the little bits of stuff in between it. And here, and again, in contrast to the German Pilsner, it's a much more complex malt aroma. Instead of being sort of an even balance between malt and then those noble hops here, it's much more of a kind of a bready, a richer malt, not quite as sweet as a Helles, a little bit more tempered. There's certainly a note of the kind of spicy Saaz hops, the noble hop aroma that you get in a lot of Pilsners, but definitely balanced a little bit more to the complex malts. So let's give it a taste. Ooh, delicious. So just as with the aroma, I'm getting a lot more malt complexity here than I would from a German Pilsner. I gotta say, I love Ardent's lagers precisely because they absolutely nail the classic elements of a lot of the older styles that they do. And this is no exception. Well, there's a lot more malt flavor here than there is in their German Pilsner and most German Pilsners you're gonna have. And again, it's not a sweet malt like a Helles where you're getting this sort of crackery, almost cereal sweetness of Pilsner malt. I'm getting a lot more depth, a lot more breadiness, almost like a kind of a brown bread. Now there's a moderate amount of bitterness here, and there certainly is some Czech Saaz flavor, but it's in a more of a supporting role. And also, I would say the carbonation level here is lower than their German Pils, and so the malt isn't just richer and more complex, it's also more rounded. It's more of a full mouthfeel. And I almost wouldn't even say this isn't a session beer because it's much more full flavored and it has more of a medium body. So overall, just really delicious malt flavors here. Ardent really nailed this one. One thing you'll notice if you were to say, look at a map of Central Europe, you can almost draw a line starting in the south and heading north. And further south you are, the Pilsners you're going to have are going to have more malt character, less hop character. a little bit less carbonation, a little bit fuller body. And as you go north, you get more hops, more bitterness, more carbonation, until you get to a rare, but I would say increasingly more seen style of the northern German Pilsner, which is extremely dry, very hoppy, and has almost mineral character, usually due to the water they use up there. But to bring it back to this beer from Ardent, again, just a very well-rounded, malt-forward lager that brings more of a bready flavor and less of a sweet malt flavor. There's a great deal of lagering here to give it complexity. It still finishes relatively dry, but overall a more full-bodied example of a Pilsner. So that's something you're interested in. Certainly check them out. If you can find Ardents, definitely check them out, because again, they've really nailed the classic elements of the style here. So thanks for joining me for this week. As always, like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you send any comments our way about beers you want to see. I very much enjoyed seeing you, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.